The jungle was not an ordinary jungle. It was a world of shadows, where tall trees rose like ancient towers, their roots twisting over broken stones. Vines hung heavy from the branches, swaying slowly in the mist. Strange insects buzzed in the air, and glowing plants lit up the ground with a pale blue light. The ruins of an ancient alien city stood half buried in the wild, its stone walls cracked and covered with moss. Symbols carved into the walls glowed faintly, as if warning intruders to turn back. Through this haunted place marched the alien soldiers. Their armor shone with metallic plates, carved with designs of war and conquest. Their long reptilian faces showed sharp teeth and unblinking eyes. They carried weapons in their clawed hands, rifles that could cut down anything that stood in their way. They were not ordinary soldiers. They were part of the Empire's chosen warriors, trained to conquer worlds and destroy all who resisted. But tonight, their steps were slow. Their eyes shifted from side to side. Their tails twitched nervously. Something was wrong. The commander walked in front, holding a long staff tipped with 3 sharp blades. His armor was more decorated than the others, shining with gold lines. That marked his rank. He was tall, taller than any human could ever be, and his mouth curled in a permanent snarl. Yet, even he looked uneasy. His claws gripped the staff tightly, as if he feared that at any moment it would be needed. The jungle was too quiet. No birds, no beasts, not even the wind moved through the ruins. The soldiers knew what this meant. It was the silence before death. A sound came from behind. One of the younger aliens stumbled on a root, his rifle clattering against his chest plate. The commander turned with a snarl and hissed for silence. The soldier quickly lowered his head, shame filling his eyes. None of them wanted to admit what they felt, but the truth could not be denied. Fear. For centuries, their people had fought wars across the stars. They had defeated countless enemies, burned cities, and enslaved worlds. But one enemy always brought. The nightmares humans. Stories had spread among the soldiers. Stories of battles where alien fleets vanished against tiny human ships. Stories where whole armies, stronger and larger, were destroyed by small groups of human fighters. The Empire had laughed at these tales once. They thought they were myths, but the survivors swore it was true. Humans fought like no other species. In the galaxy, they were not the strongest, not the fastest, not the smartest, but they were something worse, unpredictable. The commander raised his staff and gave a signal. The squad stopped, weapons lifted, eyes searched the shadows. The commander sniffed the air, but the mist carried no scent. He narrowed his eyes, scanning. The ruins, the glowing blue carvings on the walls seemed brighter now, like ghostly eyes watching them. The silence pressed harder. Every soldier felt it. Their hearts beat faster. Their claws itched on their triggers. They wanted to fire into the jungle, just to break the tension, but they did not dare. One of the older soldiers whispered, "They are here." The words spread through the squad like poison. No one argued. No one laughed. They all knew what he meant. Humans. The commander snarled, his voice sharp like a blade. "Silence. We are warriors of the Empire. No human can stand before us." His words were strong, but even he felt the chill inside. Then it happened. A branch cracked in the trees above. Every weapon turned upward, but nothing was there. The mist swirled, curling between the branches. The soldiers' eyes darted left and right. Their scales trembled with sweat. Another sound came from the ruins, a faint metallic click, echoing against the stone. It was not the jungle. It was not the insects. It was something else. Something deliberate. The younger soldier gripped his rifle tighter. His claws shook. He whispered again, his voice broken, "It's them, the ghosts." The commander turned and struck the soldier with the back of his claw. "Hold your tongue," he growled. But when his eyes met the mist again, even he felt the fear crawl inside him. The jungle was alive with silence. It was not the silence of peace. It was the silence of hunters waiting. The soldiers moved forward, but now their march was broken. Their steps were uneven, their eyes always turning behind them. The ruins seemed to close in around them, the glowing carvings pulsing like a heartbeat. The air grew heavier, harder to breathe. For the first time in their long careers, these proud, alien warriors felt powerless. Their weapons felt weak in their claws. Their armor felt thin, and every shadow in the jungle felt like death itself was hiding within it. The commander raised his staff again, but this time it was not to signal advance. It was to keep his own hand from shaking. His soldiers looked at him, waiting for orders, but he gave none. He could not, because deep inside, he knew the truth. The humans were here, and soon they would show themselves. The alien squad moved deeper into the ruins, their heavy steps echoing against the broken stones. Every sound felt too loud. Even the smallest clink of metal seemed to travel far into the mist. The commander raised his clawed hand, and instantly, the soldiers stopped. They stood frozen, weapons lifted, eyes scanning the jungle around them. The silence grew heavier, pressing down on them like an invisible weight. No one spoke. Yet in their eyes, the truth was clear. They all felt it. They were not alone. Somewhere in the fog, something moved. It was not the wild beasts of this world. It was not the falling of branches or the cry of birds. This was different. It was deliberate, careful, controlled, the kind of movement that belonged to hunters. The commander turned his head slowly, his sharp teeth clenched tight. He wanted to deny it, but even he could feel the presence. His warriors looked at him for guidance, but for the first time in his life, he had no answer. A soldier in the back whispered in a trembling voice, "It is them, the humans." The words spread through the squad like fire. Several soldiers twitched, their claws tightening on their rifles. The name itself carried power. It was a curse and a warning all at once. The commander spun around, his staff raised in anger. "Silence, you shame yourselves with weakness." His words were strong, but his voice betrayed the tension inside him. The soldiers lowered their heads, yet the fear remained. It was carved into their faces. The ruins around them seemed alive. Strange glowing patterns on the walls flickered faintly, casting ghostly light across the mist. Every stone carried the memory of something ancient, something that warned all who entered. The aliens did not know what the symbols meant, but they felt their weight. Another sound came. A metallic click, quick, sharp, and unmistakable. Every rifle turned at once, aiming into the shadows. Nothing moved, nothing was seen. The mist swallowed all. Then came another sound. This time from the left, then another, from behind. The squad spun in every direction, but they found only empty fog. Their breathing grew heavy, and their armor rattled softly as their bodies trembled. One of the younger soldiers lifted his weapon too quickly, his nerves breaking under the pressure. The commander grabbed him by the arm and hissed, "Do not fire unless I command it." "Do you understand?" The soldier nodded, but his eyes were wide with terror. The silence returned. The squad stood locked in place, their senses sharpened to the breaking point. Somewhere in the mist, something was watching. Many things, perhaps. The jungle itself felt like it held its breath, waiting for something to happen. Another whisper came, this time from one of the older soldiers. "They are ghosts. They never show themselves until it is too late." The commander wanted to strike him for speaking, but he did not, because he too had heard the same tales. Humans moved like shadows. They were never where you expected. They struck fast and disappeared, leaving only bodies behind. Their enemies called them demons. But demons were predictable. Humans were worse. The commander forced himself to step forward, raising his staff high. His voice echoed through the ruins. "We are the Empire's chosen. No human will frighten us. Stand ready." But as his words faded, the mist thickened. Shapes flickered at the edge of vision, dark outlines that disappeared the moment you looked directly at them. A chill ran down every soldier's spine. The jungle was playing tricks on them, or perhaps it was not. A sudden thud echoed from above. The squad raised their rifles toward the treetops, their eyes wide. A branch swayed, then another. Though no wind blew, something was moving up there. Something fast. One soldier whispered, almost praying. "They are here," the commander snarled. But deep inside, he knew it was true. The fear spread like a sickness. Each alien warrior began to feel smaller inside their armor, as though the jungle itself was crushing them. Their claws shook on the triggers of their rifles. Sweat dripped down their scales. They had fought many battles, but never had silence itself been so terrifying. A faint beam of red light suddenly crossed the mist. dancing across the chest plate of a soldier. He froze, staring at the mark. Then, as quickly as it appeared, the light vanished. But it was enough. He dropped his rifle in panic. The sound of metal hitting stone rang out like thunder. Every soldier turned toward him, eyes wide, hearts pounding. The commander growled, but he could not hide his own fear. If a red light had touched one of them, it meant the humans were already watching. They were close. The ruins fell quiet once more. The silence was unbearable now. Louder than any scream, each alien soldier felt the same thought pressing into their minds. They were being hunted, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. The commander gripped his staff tighter, but even the staff felt heavy in his hands. He looked into the mist, and for the first time in his long life as a warrior, he doubted his strength. Somewhere out there, humans were waiting, watching, deciding when to strike, and when they did, there would be no warning. The mist thickened as the alien soldiers pressed forward, their steps slower now, careful, almost afraid to touch the ground. The ruins around them felt alive, as if the stones themselves were watching. Each carved symbol glowed faintly, pulsing, with an otherworldly rhythm, like a silent heartbeat echoing through the jungle. The air grew heavier with every breath, thick with tension. The commander lifted his staff again, signaling the squad to halt. His sharp eyes scanned the shadows. Though the fog made every shape uncertain, he could not see far, but his instincts screamed that something was near. The silence, already suffocating, seemed to whisper around them. The soldiers shifted nervously, their weapons raised, claws trembling on the triggers. Then it came, a sound, faint but unmistakable. A branch snapped somewhere above. The crack sharpened the stillness. Every rifle turned upward, barrels pointing into the trees. Nothing moved. The vines swayed slightly, as though brushed by unseen hands, but no creature could be seen. The commander growled low, more to steady his own nerves than to warn his soldiers. "Hold steady." His words echoed against the stone walls, yet his voice did not carry the strength it once did. Even he felt the grip of dread pulling at his chest. The squad stood frozen, eyes darting from shadow to shadow. The jungle seemed to breathe with them, every flicker of movement feeding their fear. Then another sound, metal scraping faintly against stone. It was close to close. The aliens turned, forming a circle, weapons outward. Their tails twitched, armor rattling softly as their bodies shook. One soldier hissed, his voice breaking, "They surround us." No one argued. Every one of them felt it, the presence pressing down. Unseen yet undeniable, a red dot appeared suddenly on the chest of the youngest soldier. His eyes widened in horror. His breath caught in his throat as he stared at the glowing mark on his armor. Before he could react, the dot vanished, but the meaning was clear. Someone had him in their sights. The soldier dropped his rifle in panic, the weapon clattering against the stones. The noise rang out like thunder in the silent ruins. Several others flinched, their weapons twitching dangerously. The commander bared his teeth and snarled, "Hold the line," but the fear was spreading like wildfire. From somewhere unseen, another sound came. A quick, sharp movement through the mist, like boots brushing against leaves. It was fast, precise, and gone in an instant. The aliens spun toward it, rifles aimed, but again they saw nothing. The commander's claws tightened around his staff until the metal creaked. He could feel their discipline slipping, fear breaking the bond that held them together. He tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Another sound, a distant echo of footsteps, not one set, but many, slow, deliberate, and impossibly quiet. The aliens froze. The sound did not come from one direction. It came from everywhere, from the trees, from the ruins, from the mist itself. The younger soldier whimpered, his eyes darting wildly. "They're playing with us." And he was right. The humans were not attacking. Not yet. They were watching, testing, pressing fear deeper into the alien hearts. Every sound, every flicker was a message. "We are here. We control this ground. You are prey." The commander's breathing grew heavy. He wanted to shout, to charge, to break the silence with action. But his instincts held him back. He had faced countless enemies in countless battles, yet none had ever fought like this. None had ever controlled the battlefield without firing a single shot. The squad moved again. But now their formation was broken. Each soldier glanced over his shoulder with every step. Their weapons twitched toward shadows. Their discipline was gone. The jungle owned them now. Suddenly, a soldier screamed. Something had brushed past him, something fast, unseen, and cold. He fired blindly into the mist. Bright flashes lit the ruins, the sound of gunfire tearing through the silence. But he hit nothing. The jungle swallowed the shots, the echoes bouncing through the ruins like laughter. The commander struck the soldier hard across the faceplate, snarling, "Fool, you give them what they want." But inside, even he felt the truth. The humans had touched them without being seen. They could have killed him, but they chose not to. They wanted fear to grow stronger. The squad now stood on the edge of collapse. Their bodies shook, their breathing harsh, their weapons unsteady. They were warriors, yes, but tonight they felt like hunted animals. Then came the final sign. From deep within the mist, a figure appeared for the briefest of moments, a dark silhouette standing tall on the ruins, unmoving like a shadow carved from stone. No face could be seen, only the faint glow of a visor. Then, in an instant, it was gone. The soldiers gasped, their weapons jerking toward where the figure had stood. But the space was empty once more. Only mist remained. The commander's claws dug into his staff, his heart pounding in his chest. He could not deny it any longer. The humans were here. Not ghosts, not myths, real. And closer than ever. He turned slowly, his eyes meeting his soldiers. They looked back at him, fear naked in their stares. Their armor no longer felt like protection. Their weapons no longer felt like strength. For the first time, they understood. The battle was not about to begin. It had already begun, and they were already losing. The ruins had never felt so heavy. Every shadow seemed alive. Every sound carried weight. The alien soldiers stood in a broken circle, their weapons raised, eyes darting in all directions. Fear clung to them like the mist, seeping into every breath, every thought. They had trained for war, but not for this, an enemy they could not see, yet one that controlled the battlefield with silence alone. Then it happened. A shape emerged from the fog, tall and solid, moving with slow, steady steps. The first human appeared. His armor was black as the shadows, plates sleek and smooth, designed not just for protection, but for intimidation. His visor glowed faintly, a cold, unnatural light that cut through the mist. He carried no rifle in his hands, only a blade strapped to his side. And yet, his presence was heavier than any weapon. The aliens tensed. Weapons clicked as claws tightened around triggers. The commander raised his staff, signaling restraint. His soldiers obeyed, but their fear deepened. This one man walked straight into their circle, unafraid, as if he already knew how the moment would end. Another figure appeared behind him, then another, then more. From the mist, silent shadows took form. Human special forces. They did not rush, they did not shout, they did not fire. They walked with calm precision, spreading out to surround the alien squad. Every movement was exact, measured, like predators closing in on prey. The jungle held its breath. Even the insects fell silent. The aliens shifted uneasily, their formation breaking apart. The commander tried to steady them, his voice harsh. "Stand strong. They are only men." His words rang through the ruins, but the conviction in his tone was thin. The humans did not react. They kept walking, weapons still lowered, their silence louder than any roar. One of the younger soldiers could not bear it. His claws shook, his breathing ragged. He raised his rifle, pointing it at the closest human. But before he could fire, the commander struck his weapon aside, snarling, "No, do not give them reason." The human did not even flinch. He simply stared through the glowing visor, the cold light piercing the alien soldier like a blade. That one look carried more weight than 100 shots. The circle of humans tightened. They moved as one, silent and unshaken, their armor absorbing the pale light of the ruins. Their steps echoed softly on the stones, each sound deliberate, each sound controlled. They stopped just outside striking distance, their line unbroken, their presence overwhelming. The aliens were trapped. They knew it. They could feel it. Their weapons suddenly felt useless in their claws. Their armor felt thin as paper. They had fought beasts, machines, and entire armies, but never had they faced silence as a weapon. The commander's eyes darted from one human to another. He counted 12 of them, no more. His own squad outnumbered them nearly 3-1. By numbers alone, victory should have been certain, yet his chest was tight with dread. The calm confidence of the humans told him all he needed to know. They did not care about numbers. They had never cared. The older soldier, the one who had whispered before, muttered again. "They don't even need to fight us," the words sent a shiver through the squad, and they were true. The humans stood like ghosts made of flesh and steel, their silence heavier than thunder. One of the humans finally moved. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his rifle, not to fire, not to aim, but to hold it loosely across his chest. The motion was casual, as if he were saying, "We are ready when we choose to be." "You will not survive that choice," the alien commander bared his teeth in frustration. His pride demanded resistance, but his instinct screamed otherwise. He could feel the morale of his soldiers crumbling. Their eyes betrayed them wide, shaking. Filled with terror, one by one, their breaths grew. Heavier, their weapons trembling in their hands. Then came the sound. A single weapon clattered against the stone. One of the younger aliens had dropped his rifle. His knees buckled, and he fell forward, bowing his head. His fear had broken him. The silence deepened. All eyes turned to him. Another soldier followed. He too lowered his weapon, his claws releasing the grip, his eyes refusing to meet the glowing visors of the humans. The sound of metal against stone echoed again, sharp and final. The commander growled, desperate to hold control, but it was too late. The line was breaking. The fear was spreading faster than his words could reach. The humans stood still, watching, waiting. Their discipline was unshakable, their silence terrifying. They had not fired a single shot, yet already the aliens were crumbling. The commander's grip on his staff tightened until his claws ached. He could not believe what he was seeing. His proud warriors, chosen by the Empire, feared across the stars, were kneeling before an enemy that had not even struck. His anger burned, but his fear was stronger. He looked into the cold glow of the nearest visor and felt his strength falter. The mist swirled around them, thick and heavy. The ruins held their breath, and in that moment, the commander knew the truth. The battle was not about weapons or numbers. It was about will, and the humans had already won. The commander's chest rose and fell, each breath heavier than the last. Around him, the ruins echoed with the sound of weapons hitting stone. The once proud soldiers of the Empire were losing their grip, their discipline fading like smoke in the wind. Every clang of metal against the ground was another crack in their strength, another victory for the silent humans who had done nothing but stand. The humans did not speak. They did not move closer. Their line remained unbroken, their glowing visors fixed on the aliens like eyes of judgment. They seemed carved from the mist itself, figures of darkness and steel. Unshaken by the fear that consumed their enemies, the commander's mind screamed at him to act. His pride demanded it. He wanted to roar, to strike, to remind his soldiers of who they were, the chosen of the Empire, feared across the stars. But when he opened his mouth, the words came out weak. "Stand, do not give them the satisfaction." His soldiers heard, but his voice carried no power. Their claws trembled on their rifles, their bodies stiff with terror. Many no longer looked at the humans at all, unable to meet the silent gaze of the visors. They stared at the ground instead, their spirits breaking under the weight of something they could not fight. One soldier dropped to his knees, then another. The sound of armor plates scraping against stone filled the ruins. The commander turned. Sharply, his staff raised as if to strike them, but his arm froze. His eyes met the visor of the closest human. The cold glow reflected back at him, steady, unblinking. His throat tightened. For the first time, his body disobeyed his will. He lowered the staff slowly, almost without realizing it. The humans took no advantage. They made no move to attack. They simply stood, letting the fear grow on its own. That was their weapon, not the rifles they carried, not the blades at their sides, but silence and patience. The aliens could not understand it, and because they could not understand, they could not resist. A murmur broke among the soldiers, harsh, Fearful whispers passed between them. They do not bleed. They do not fear. They are not men at all. The whispers carried weight, more powerful than any command. The commander's teeth clenched as he realized the battle was slipping completely from his hands. He slammed the base of his staff against the stone with a sharp crack, forcing his voice to rise. They are flesh. They are weak. You are warriors of the Empire. But even as he spoke, one of his soldiers let out a choked cry and tossed his rifle aside. His claws shook violently as he dropped to the ground, head bowed. "Forgive me, Commander. I cannot face them." The others watched, their resolve shattering piece by piece. The line of humans stood unchanged, the mist swirling gently around their armor. Not one of them twitched. Not one showed emotion. They were statues of war, and their silence was louder than any scream. The commander felt his fury boiling, but his heart betrayed him. He felt the same fear as his men. He felt it stronger, because he knew what they all feared was true. The humans were not just soldiers. They were predators. The jungle belonged to them. The ruins obeyed them. Even the silence served them. Another rifle clattered. Another soldier knelt. The commander's claws ached as he tightened his grip, but the staff felt heavier with each moment, dragging him down. He stared at his men, and for the first time, he could not find the words to save them. The humans had spoken no command yet. The aliens obeyed them all the same. It was not surrender to words, but to presence, to dominance, to something primal in the air that no training, no armor, no empire could fight. The commander's breathing grew ragged. His eyes darted from the glowing visors back to his own troops. Most were kneeling now. A few still stood, but their weapons trembled, their shoulders slumped, their spirits shattered. He felt the moment slipping into finality. One human finally moved a simple step forward, calm and steady, rifle lowered. That single step was enough. The aliens broke. Rifles fell in a cascade of metallic clatters, and knees struck stone in unison. The Empire's chosen bowed their heads, beaten without a single shot fired. The commander stood alone. His staff shook in his claws, his body torn between pride and survival. He looked into the visors, into the cold light that revealed nothing yet promised everything. He saw no mercy there, but neither did he see need for violence. They had already won. His throat tightened, his pride roared inside him, demanding resistance, but his body betrayed him once again. Slowly, painfully, he lowered the staff. The sound of its blades touching stone was the loudest sound he had ever heard in his life. The ruins were filled with silence again, but now it was a silence of surrender. The humans did not cheer. They did not move. They simply stood, their presence alone enough to hold the world in submission. The commander closed his eyes. His people had faced many enemies, but never had they been defeated like this without a fight, without a wound, with only fear as the weapon. He knew then that this was no ordinary enemy. This was humanity, and the Empire would never be the same. The ruins had gone silent again, but it was not the silence of waiting. It was the silence of defeat. Alien rifles lay scattered across the stones. Glowing symbols on the walls reflected in the polished metal. Dozens of soldiers knelt in the mist, their heads lowered, their claws empty. The air was heavy, filled with the sound of shallow, nervous breathing. The humans stood in a perfect line. They had not spoken a word, not raised their weapons, yet they commanded everything. Their black armor blended with the shadows, their glowing visors steady and cold. They looked less like men and more like an unshakable wall, an ancient force carved into flesh and steel. The alien commander remained standing. His staff trembled in his claws, but still he clutched it, the last piece of his pride refusing to fall. His eyes scanned the humans, searching for weakness, for some sign that they were only mortal. But there was nothing, no breath, no flicker, no doubt. They stood as if they had been here forever, as if the jungle itself had chosen them as its guardians. He turned his gaze back to his soldiers, his warriors, the Empire's chosen. They were bowed like slaves, their courage drained, their hearts broken. Rage flared in his chest, hot and sharp, but it was swallowed by something colder, fear. If he gave the order to fight, they would not obey, and if he fought alone, he would not last a heartbeat. A human stepped forward, Just one. The motion was slow, deliberate, filled with power. His rifle was still lowered, but it didn't matter. That single step carried the weight of an entire fleet. The aliens flinched as if a wave of force had struck them. The commander felt his breath catching. His throat, his grip on the staff weakened. The human did not raise his weapon. He did not speak. He simply stood there, visor glowing, waiting. It was a demand without words, a command written in silence. The commander's claws shook. His mind screamed at him to resist, to fight, to prove his worth. He could hear the voices of his ancestors, the war songs of his people, the pride of the empire demanding that he stand tall. But his body betrayed him. The staff grew heavier, his arms weaker, until at last his knees bent under the weight. The sound of the staff striking stone was final. It echoed across the ruins like a death knell. The last symbol of defiance was gone. The commander bowed his head. The soldiers who were still standing followed at once, their knees hitting stone with a thud. The last traces of resistance crumbled like sand in the wind. The entire squad was on the ground now, their surrender complete. The humans remained silent. They did not cheer. They did not move. They only stood, their presence more powerful than any weapon, more final than any victory. The commander's breath came heavy, his chest tight. He dared to raise his eyes for a moment. The humans stared back through their glowing visors, unblinking, unreadable. For the first time in his long life as a warrior, he understood something terrible. His empire had lied. These were not just humans. They were something else, something far greater. He lowered his gaze again. His pride shattered. The silence pressed down on him like a mountain, crushing the last fragments of defiance in his heart. Time passed slowly. The mist swirled, wrapping the ruins in a shroud of pale light. The alien soldiers knelt, unmoving, afraid to lift their eyes. The humans held their ground, motionless, watching. It was not victory they carried. It was judgment. The commander wanted to speak, to beg, to ask why they did not kill them. But the words never came. His throat was dry, his tongue heavy. He could not bring himself to break the silence. The humans did not need words. Their message was clear. You have lost. One of the humans finally raised his hand, a slow and controlled gesture. The others shifted slightly, but still they did not raise their weapons. The gesture was simple, but its meaning was undeniable. The humans had decided. The aliens would live but only because the humans allowed it. The commander's claws curled against the stone. His pride screamed in agony. To live like this, spared by the mercy of prey that had become predators, was worse than death. But he did not rise. He did not resist. He stayed on his knees, as did all the others. The jungle seemed to exhale. The ruins glowed brighter for a moment, as if acknowledging the end of the battle. Even the mist settled, calm and still. The humans stepped back, their formation unbroken. They moved like shadows retreating into darkness, their visors glowing until the mist swallowed them whole. Not a word was spoken. Not a sound betrayed their leaving. And yet their presence lingered, heavy and eternal. The commander lifted his head slowly. The humans were gone, but their power remained. He felt it in his bones, in the shaking of his claws, in the silence of his men. They had been defeated without a fight. Their weapons had never fired. Their blades had never tasted blood, but their will had been crushed utterly and completely. The commander closed his eyes, the shame cutting deeper than any wound. The empire would never understand. They would demand to know why he surrendered, why he failed. But how could he explain what had happened here? How could he describe an enemy that did not need to strike to win? He bowed his head again, his pride shattered beyond repair. The truth was simple, and it burned like fire inside him. Against the humans, there was no victory. The jungle was quiet once more. The mist curled slowly through the broken ruins, drifting between the glowing blue symbols carved into ancient stone. Alien weapons lay scattered across the ground, cold and forgotten. The air carried no sound of gunfire, no cries of battle, only the deep silence of surrender. The alien soldiers remained on their knees. Their heads were bowed low, their claws resting against the stone in defeat. Even their breathing had grown shallow. as if they were afraid to disturb the silence left behind by their conquerors. Shame weighed on them heavier than their armor. They had come here as warriors, chosen by the Empire, proud and strong. Now they knelt like prisoners, broken without a single strike against them. The commander did not move. His staff lay on the ground before him, the golden edges dull against the pale light. His eyes stared at the stone, but his mind replayed the moment over and over the glowing visors. The steady silence, the power that had crushed them all. He tried to fight against the memory, to remind himself that he was a leader, a warrior, a chosen son of the Empire. But every time he thought of rising, he felt that cold gaze on him once again. His body betrayed him, refusing to move, far above. The trees swayed gently in a wind that had not been there before. The jungle itself seemed to exhale, as if acknowledging that the humans had passed through and claimed this place. The ruins felt heavier, the symbols brighter, like ancient guardians awakened by the presence of these strange warriors. One soldier dared to whisper. His voice was weak, trembling, but filled with awe. "They are not men. They are something else." The commander wanted to silence him, to strike him as he had before, but his claws did not rise. Deep inside, he agreed. The humans were not demons, not ghosts, not even simple warriors. They were predators, hunters who needed no blade to kill, no gun to conquer. They were more than flesh. They were will. Time moved slowly. The mist shifted, but no human returned. The soldiers began to lift their eyes, just slightly, searching the ruins as if to confirm the shadows were truly empty. Yet even in their absence, the humans remained. Their presence lingered in every stone, every whisper of air. It was as if the jungle itself now carried their spirit. The commander finally raised his head. His eyes scanned the ruins where the humans had stood, empty now, but heavy with memory. He knew he should order his men to rise, to gather their weapons, to restore order, but the command would not come. His voice had no power left. His men would not obey, not because they defied him, but because their bodies could not. The humans had broken more than their formation. They had broken their spirit. Another soldier muttered, almost praying, "Why did they let us live?" The question hung in the air. No one answered, because no one knew. To the aliens, mercy was weakness. To the humans, it was something different, something sharper, more terrifying. They had left the soldiers alive not out of kindness, but out of certainty. They had no need to kill. Their victory was already absolute. The commander felt the truth sink deeper into his bones. He could take his men back to the Empire. He could report the encounter. He could tell the generals that they had faced humans and lived. But what could he say? That they were defeated by silence, that they were broken by fear. The Empire would never accept it. They would laugh at him, punish him, perhaps even strip him of command. And yet, the truth would remain. He lowered his eyes once more. There was no way to explain what had happened. Words could not capture it. Only those who had faced humans could ever understand. The jungle stirred again. A soft rustle of leaves high above. The soldiers flinched, their weapons gone, their bodies tense, but no figure appeared. The humans were long gone. Still, the fear remained. It would always remain. The commander pressed his claws against the stone, feeling the cold surface beneath him. The silence pressed harder, whispering a lesson he would never forget. The Empire had taught him that humans were weak, fragile, easy to break. Tonight had shown him the truth. Humans were none of those things. They were the danger in the dark, the force that made even the strongest kneel. And kneeling was exactly what they had done. His eyes closed slowly. In the depths of his mind, he saw the glowing visors once more, steady and unblinking. He heard the silence that had crushed him, felt the weight of a will greater than his own. The memory carved itself into him, deeper than any wound. The ruins stood in silence, the jungle calm, but within the commander a storm raged. Pride and shame fought bitterly, but the lesson was clear. Against humans, there was no honor in resistance, no strength in defiance. The only choice was survival, and even that was given, not taken. He bowed his head lower, the last piece of his pride falling away. The truth echoed inside him, simple and final. The humans had not just won the battle, they had changed it forever. Somewhere, beyond the mist, humanity walked on, already seeking the next war, the next empire, the next army to make kneel,